Hi, and welcome to Tengy Reviews The Twilight Zone. I'm Tengy, and today's episode is The Lonely. The Lonely was written by Rod Serling and directed by Jack Smight. The plot. In the future, convicted murderer James Corry is sentenced to life imprisonment on an asteroid all by himself. The loneliness is driving him towards insanity. A kindly supply delivery officer takes pity on Corry and brings him a unique gift, an android in the shape of a beautiful woman called Alicia. But when a pardon is unexpectedly granted, Corry must face an impossible decision. Points of interest in this episode. Amazing locations in this one. It was apparently shot in Death Valley, where the harsh conditions were so severe they affected some of the crew quite badly. The idea of solitary confinement in a vast wilderness is really original, although it did remind me a little bit of Robinson Crusoe. And of course, there is a long tradition of updating island stories to sci-fi planet stories. Most iconically, Forbidden Planet is a sci-fi updating of Shakespeare's The Tempest, but even Lost in Space was a kind of sci-fi updated version of the Swiss Family Robinson. Great narration by Corry, which gives an intimate diary-like feel to this story. Ted Knight's character is so surly and nasty. He's a great example of how Serling takes even a small supporting character and makes them interesting and dynamic in the story. This is another story about a character caught up in a system in which he can't win. In this case, it's the justice system. As Corry states, he killed in self-defense, but the law was pitiless in the punishment it inflicted on him. I love how people say robot in shows of this era, and if you enjoy that, there's a lot of robot in this story to enjoy. Corry's initial treatment of Alicia is pretty ugly. He treats her like an object, but the position he's been placed in is really no better. He has no say in choosing her as a partner any more than she does. The fact that they are both forced into this relationship feels pretty icky. This story raises some really interesting questions about the ethics of making an android that has thoughts and feelings, yet is effectively a possession to be passed around by men. That is a pretty disturbing idea. As a fantasy about what is in some ways a man's relationship with a compliant and walking, talking love doll, it maintains a suitably uneasy tone. What happens if you fall in love with this fantasy robot? Is it real? And if the robot has feelings for you, are they real? Is she programmed to fall in love with whoever owns her too? Does she have any choice in any of this? Is it ethical to make an artificial person and to use that person and then just cast them away like some old car? The parallels to slavery are pretty obvious here. There is something deeply unsettling about this story, and the note it ends on is pretty upsetting. It's another story in which nobody wins and nobody can win. Now, is this the most science fiction story we've seen so far in Twilight Zone? I would say yes. It's set in the future on another planet, and considering the ways in which new technologies might complicate our lives, our emotions, and our ethics, Serling uses science fiction ideas in really interesting ways here. It also looks at the ethics of incarceration as another dimension of the story. The cast and crew. Director Jack Smight directed 4 Twilight Zones, and he also directed a lot of film and TV, including Airport 75 and The Illustrated Man. Jack Warden is a very familiar face and appeared in such hit films as Shampoo, Heaven Can Wait, and Being There, as well as countless TV shows. He appeared in 2 Twilight Zone episodes. John Dehner was another very familiar face from film and TV, as well as being an artist who worked for Disney on such films as Fantasia and Bambi. On TV, he appeared in 3 Twilight Zones, plus a huge number of westerns and Kolchak the Night Stalker. John Dehner is really great in this. Jean Marsh is, of course, the legendary British actress and writer, famous as the co-creator of the hit series Upstairs, Downstairs, as well as The House of Elliot, in addition to her wonderful roles in film and TV. Ted Knight is best known for his comedic work in The Mary Tyler Moore Show and the film Caddyshack, but he has a very impressive list of film and TV credentials to his name in addition to those roles. To sum up, the very strong performance of Jack Warden is really one of the most compelling aspects of this episode. He brings a very sympathetic quality and a touching sense of yearning to find a way out of his lonely predicament. We're on his side even when he's doing stuff that seems a bit questionable, like his initial treatment of Alicia. This story takes a bold and in some ways risque science fiction idea. The android is implied to be fully functional as a woman, and it weaves this into a compelling and pretty uneasy half hour of drama. Corry has no choice about becoming involved in this relationship with Alicia, any more than she has a choice. They are both forced to be together, both treated like objects and both dehumanized by this system which sent Corry to prison on an asteroid. The way the system treats him isn't any better than the way it treats her. The Lonely is another very thought-provoking story from Serling that isn't afraid to leave the viewer hanging in that uncertain space of moral ambiguity and emotional grey areas. If you have thoughts on The Lonely, I would love to hear them in the comment section. If you've enjoyed this video, please consider liking and subscribing for more Twilight Zone reviews and other weird film fun. Thank you so much for joining me today. I really look forward to seeing you next time. Bye.